Alrighty, good morning everybody. It is Friday, June 13th of 2025. Getting close to our contract rollover. We got one more week left. Tomorrow should be interesting, or I should say next week should be interesting with the price action, given that we will have that move into the September 2025 contract. Um, just to reiterate for anyone who has not been here, we do have our new service starting next week, so we will have live links to sign up. I did have a request for you guys to send me an email, so I got a couple of responses. And going into next week, we will have the live subscription here. So just to explain what we're doing, you guys should be familiar with our roadmap levels. By the way, the high of the week today, or this week, was our roadmap level to the tick. Came up, went through it by one tick, and then we got this sell-off coming now into Friday here. So our roadmap levels will be updated for the new contract for the September 2025 contract. That will be the main thing we'll be offering is our extremely accurate roadmap levels. You'll also be getting 24 hours of training videos that show you how to trade around those levels. Basically, an entire futures trading course you'll get included with your subscription. We'll be updating specific levels daily, but again, the major roadmap levels are updated quarterly, right? So we'll also have some live broadcasts and webinars throughout the 3-month period there that you'll be invited to. And then we'll also be sending out a daily morning news report that has all the levels listed along with major signals, the charts we're using, and some basic trading insights for the trading day, basically a trading plan. Again, this is a quarterly service, so if you sign up, you're signing up for 3 months. And if you want, you can save $200 and just sign up for an entire annual package and be here for the next 4 contract rollovers. So next week, if you do sign up either today or over the weekend or on Monday of next week, you will get the levels from the June contract that are expiring at the end of next week. So you will have those, and then we'll jump into the new contract for the September 2025, right? And then we'll update all these levels. They don't necessarily just shift up, however many points the new contract shifts. They are specific to changes that you will see in the historical price action. So that is kind of the first thing I wanted to mention, that we are starting the new service next week. So hopefully we will see some of you there. And as you can see here in the overnight session, just like we saw, and just want to make sure that my screen is coming through here. Okay. For some reason it shows. Oh, it is what it is. So as you can see here in the overnight session, again, not cherry picking anything, the market pushed all the way up into this first roadmap level here last night. No, let's pull this back. We got this really strong push out, and it still just kind of blows me away every time I look at this stuff. But here's the overnight low. Here's the push up to the first major pullback in the overnight session right off the roadmap level. Pushes up to the next one here for a double top where we get a pullback and a bounce right off that previous resistance, that roadmap level there. Then we push up here coming up into about 5 a.m. Eastern, and we get a peak above and fail right off that roadmap level, and for about 2 hours failed off of it multiple times. So the whole way up this morning, you had opportunities to get short right off those roadmap levels and take on either no risk or a very limited amount of risk. And then finally, when we got all the way up here, just in the last couple minutes, we just got a pretty drastic pullback right from the next roadmap level. So again, not cherry picking anything. This is exactly what happened here just in the overnight session. And as we speak right now, we're getting a nice little bounce right off the 200 moving average and our daily power level. So again, there's nowhere else in the world, you're going to get levels for the S&P futures market that are this accurate day in, day out. Now, if we zoom out to the hourly chart so we can kind of get a bigger picture or a bird's eye view of what's going on here, again, I do want to mention that the high of the week was our major roadmap level within one tick. It pushed through it one tick, which is great because that means if you did have an order there, it got filled. And now for the last day and a half, we're in this pretty strong sell-off, right? And then last night, we found support, not perfectly, right? We found support right around the next major roadmap level, which is really kind of testing into this area of demand from the beginning, or actually right at the end of last week, last Friday, the lows of that previous Friday all the way out. There's nice, strong demand in the market there. So again, they came right back in. It was also, if you measure this specific bullish leg that we're in, was the 61.8 retracement, right? So right where you would expect to see support, the 61.8 retrace along with a major roadmap level is right where we're finding this bounce in the overnight session after this really strong sell-off. And if you look back to yesterday, the high of the day yesterday was our major roadmap level around 47.75 there. Again, they pushed through by 2 or 3 points and then got the failure. If you look at it on the short time frames here and you jump back to yesterday, you can see very clearly here that they just flirted and flirted and flirted with that major roadmap level at 47, coming into it to the tick on a couple tests. And then finally, they do one more peek through at the end of the day. And if you look, they got through it and then became support to the upside, right? But then finally failed out. And then the whole overnight session, we got this very strong sell-off. We also had some very clear bearish signals up top here as the market closed yesterday. So it's not surprising that we did see such a strong sell-off. But that's kind of how everything has transpired here just in the last few days. You can still see on the way down here some great holds off the back end of these roadmap levels, in many instances to the tick, right? So these are the levels we'll be offering in the new service. Again, as we roll over into the September 2025 contract, these levels will all change and be updated. So that is what we'll be offering in our new service, along with all of the training, along with our live broadcasts, etc. So let's look. I wanted to talk today, and I believe we talked about this not too long ago, maybe 1 or 2 weeks ago. We were talking about Fibonacci, and I think there are just so many beautiful examples over the last few weeks that I do want to mention, or at least point out some of the interesting things that have happened, and another reason why I really do rely on fibs for orienting myself in the market and even looking for entries. But just to kind of go through this here, we're going to start all the way back here from the May 23rd low, which is, if you zoom out, kind of the last major swing low before, if you look at this whole push out, the most drastic pullback from the April lows all the way up coming into June here was this major pullback right here. So this is kind of where all the bulls jumped right back in and then started to try and push out from the major resistance point, which, if you recall, back to a week or two ago, was that 59.84 area up into the 6,008 area, I believe, or 6,002 was the roadmap level. So right in there, we get the pullback. So we're looking now at this next major push out by the bulls, right? And there is a little bit of art to drawing fibs and a little bit of technique, a little bit of art to it. And I have built kind of my way of reading the market using fibs, but it is just kind of your typical basic analysis here. So if you look from, again, the major low, which interestingly enough was the roadmap level there to the tick, you get that push out and we get our major high here back on May 29th. And if you look, you draw your fib up to the high, which was right off. We had 6,007 was our short time frame level up there, and they pushed right to 6,008, basically testing right into it. And then we got the pullback, and you can see right here, where did the market find its next major support for the next bullish push out? Right off the 61.8. And I believe we talked about this in maybe last week's session, maybe not. Could have been 2 weeks ago when we did the Feats of Fibonacci broadcast. We talked about this specific leg, but we didn't see the continuation to the upside to see what happened. Well, now we can see, especially after the mid this week now, that the major high of the week right now, and again, it was our roadmap level to the tick, is also the 27 extension of this first bullish leg that we're looking at right here. So here, once again, seems like it's day in, day out, we have this bullish leg, a 61.8 retracement nearly perfectly, and now a push to the first extension, the 27.2 extension, where we're getting the most extreme pullback that we've gotten ever since the bounce from that 61.8. So this is just another example of just how beautifully the market trades back and forth between fibs, right? So that is kind of another part of our strategy and our way to read the market. Now, if we start from the point of the major bounce from the retracement area, we then have this second leg, right? So first leg out was the major low to this first major swing high. We got our 61.8 retrace. The second leg of that now is now from here up to right here, where we push to a slightly higher high right into our roadmap level there, right into that 15-16 area. And what did we get? We got ourselves a near perfect 50% retracement. Right now, 50% is not technically a fib, right? Fibs are, more importantly, the golden ratio, the 61.8, and then we have that 38. But 50% psych level is also extremely relevant. That's why they basically include it in all the fib analysis tools. And you can see we got now a near perfect push, 50% retracement. And then where was the 27 extension? I believe we added this to our news report last week. And I told you guys, or at least from the news report, we had a resistance level right there at 60, 62. I think it might have been 61 or 62 right there. Well, where did we come up and make a major high this week? Just a couple points above, right? So for all intents and purposes, another perfect fib leg with a 50% retracement and a push to test the 27 extension, and now we're pulling back, right? So in this case, yeah, it didn't come to it to the tick like it did with the first leg, but all intents and purposes here, we came into it, we pushed through it, and then if you were actually to zoom in and look, they then came back up and they tested it 2 times right there, almost perfectly, right? So it was almost like a peak up through it, then a hold, and the pullback. So we've got two beautiful, we've got the ratios of fibs working out beautifully. So I just wanted to mention that as we came into this week, that 27 extension from maybe 2 weeks ago when we did our fib broadcast is now the major high of this week. And it's not like they just pulled back 10 points, right? They have pulled back from 60.74 all the way down to 59.30. Right, a pretty strong over 100-point pullback. So again, this is why I like fibs. This is why I use them to not only find entries in the market, but also to project out and find my extensions. Now, if you look here, and I didn't even realize this until I looked right now, the sell-off that we're currently in from the scene of that 27 extension right there, if you were to measure that sell-off, right, that first push lower, which was this swing high, down to this swing low, what do we get? So if you were here before yesterday, or in the overnight session yesterday, and you plotted your fibs, what happened here. And again, we already saw the market came right to our roadmap level here and peeked into it and failed. But for all intents and purposes, we got another near perfect fib leg low down, a test of the 61.8. Not perfect, right? It did kind of push through it, but for all intents and purposes, held the 61.8. And where did we just bounce in the overnight session? The 61.8 extension of that leg. So again, 27, 61.8, and then the 100% extension are typically where you're going to find a rotation if it's going to happen, right? So that is just another perfect example. I didn't even realize that until just now, that we've got ourselves another near perfect extension or projection, depending on who you talk to, down into the 61.8, where we're now finding support, right? So you can see how we can start to put all this together. Fibonacci's, major roadmap levels, right? And signals to find where the market is most likely going to make its next rotation. So that's what I wanted to mention there in terms of our fibs. And again, this morning we find ourselves getting a big pullback right off our roadmap level to the tick. And as I speak right now, we are now bouncing from that secondary or that next roadmap level below. So remember, when we started the broadcast here, we were just testing into the 200, and we did get a decent little response here. It was 87 to 90, a little 3-point bounce, but they could not get through the fast moving average. Kind of a clue, if you were long from there, that rotating back in front of the FMA was telling you either a retest of that low or most likely down to the next roadmap level. And now here we find ourselves almost 10 points off that level in just a couple minutes. Right now, as I speak, we're actually just about 10 points up off the roadmap level. 1 or 2 ticks of heat on that one. So again, no cherry picking. This is exactly what's happening live. We have a pullback 1 tick in front of our roadmap level here, the high of the overnight session, and we have a bounce within a tick for this 10-point bounce so far from the next roadmap level. So pretty awesome stuff if you ask me. Let's talk about now, we've got just a couple minutes. Let's talk about what the charts are showing for this morning on the higher time frames. So give me one moment here to pull up the 60-minute chart. And we'll look at what signals we're dealing with as we come into the end of the week here. So first things first, we need to talk about this major swing high up off our roadmap level here, because we have a whole lot of bearish clues up from that high. So if we go up to our weekly, I don't think the weekly, so weekly has been showing for a little while now, for the last couple of weeks, the potential for the bearish pullback. Now, for anyone who trades in the roadmap service, you guys know that just because there's a potential signal on a weekly time frame, super zoomed out, that doesn't mean we're just bears, right? We need to see a couple things happen. And one of them would be holding down below 50% of last week's candle. And as you can see so far right now, we're actually holding and bouncing off that 50% area. So not a good confirmation of our potential signal so far. But if we're able to go ahead and push back down below 59.46, we now have our first check mark for the potential of a deeper pullback, right? So weekly showing potential up off our weekly high. On the daily, we have a nice potential bearish signal up off this week's high as well. So we've been watching this again for the last week or two and talking about the potential signals we're seeing. And what happens is we get a pullback, but then the bulls just jump right back in, and then we get a pullback. There's bearish there. We get the pullback, but a very shallow pullback, and then the bulls jump back in. So same thing here this morning. As we come into the open, we have a bearish signal from the weekly high. We're actually starting to get the follow through, the pullback that we would want to see, but it seems like the bulls are jumping in right here around 50% of last week, right? So if we go to the weekly, That's that 59.46 quarter level. And on the daily here, you can see it. That's right where we're finding some potential, some support so far. Right, there's the overnight low. And then here's this strong push out that we've got so far. So we have weekly and daily potential signals. We're starting to get decent follow through right now. If the bears can pull price down through 50% of last week, we now have a good check mark for an expectation of a deeper sell-off. So that means we could start to target, if you go to our hourly time frame here, we can start to target down into some of these deeper roadmap levels where we would expect there could be the next rotation or bounce, right? So that's the general idea this morning. Now, the flip side of it is that, again, we keep getting bearish signals, we keep getting shallow pullbacks, and then the bulls are jumping back in. So we cannot discount the fact that the bulls have just found support from 50% of last week, that critical level, and they are pushing it almost back to the weekly highs again. So if the bulls, let's go back to our hourly chart here, if the bulls can get us up through this 60, what is the roadmap level? 60.15 quarter, and basically 50% of yesterday there, that magenta line, that is a good clue for a retest of the weekly high. Doesn't mean it has to happen, but if we can get through that little general pocket right there, we have a good clue for a retest of the weekly highs. Again, doesn't mean it has to happen, but these are some general trading plans for this morning. So again, on the pullback here, if they come back through 50% of last week, not a good sign, and actually a great for the bulls, but a great sign for that bearish potential that we see. And on the flip side here, if the bulls can defend that area and get us up through 50% of yesterday and our major roadmap level there, we then have some good faith in a retest of the weekly high. So that is it, my friends. Let's get us down to the short time frames for the open here. And what do you know? Just another morning where if you bought our roadmap level, you took on, for all intents and purposes, no freaking risk at all. And now here you are up, I don't know, over 20 points as I speak, 25 points. So that's how we'll end the broadcast for this week. I hope you guys have a great trading day today and a great weekend. We will see you next week, and hopefully I'll see some of you in the new service. I will go ahead and update the website and put in the links then to sign up either for the quarterly or the actual annual package, which is a better value if you ask me. And I will see you guys next week for our public live broadcast. Until then, stay happy. Take care.